This is Dennis Cahill. He's here to stop me wandering off. He's the director of the Loose Moose Theatre, improvisation theatre here.
Keith, perhaps you should begin by explaining why I have a horn.
My brain is seriously deteriorating. The stick is to stop me falling over. It's going to happen to you guys, don't worry. My short-term memory is shot, but I'm here. I mean, it's quite a good sign. I teach improvisation. I was going to give it up 2 years ago, maybe 3. But then I went in and thought I'd do it for the last time, a 10-day workshop. And I told the students that I would keep losing track, and that if they would mind putting me back on track, it would be a great help. I always think teachers should reveal everything to their students, especially when they don't know something. All the teachers I ever had always knew something, which was really discouraging. And they teach you, they choose really good poems, so then you think, I could never write one like that.
Sorry,
And
you still haven't explained the horn.
well, no, but you should have honked it then.
I know.
Because I'm wandering off, which I tend to do. I can still see what's in front of my nose, so I'm still quite useful as an improvisation teacher. The bell, we've never done this before.
It's improvised.
Improvisation is high risk. It's not really like, people think it's like show business, it's much more like sport. You do not want a great introduction to improvisation, because you may have absolutely nothing to offer. I was told the first half went really well. People from outside of improvisation always think it's lovely if the first half goes well. Improvisers know there's nothing worse than a great introduction. The problem is to have the best stuff at the end, because the audience always think you have something better lined up. But okay.
Keith, I'm sorry, I have to stop you.
No, you're right.
Because we have
now,
some slides here with quotes.
That's correct.
And you're supposed to speak to each of these quotes.
Yes.
And there's
right.
12 quotes, and now there's less than 11 minutes.
That's right.
So I'm just going to suggest that maybe...
I never said that.
Well, then, let's move on.
Okay. There was a TED talk, and it could not be squeezed into 15 minutes. And you can see why. I decided when I was just before my 9th birthday not to believe anything the grown-ups said. And the next day I decided to always see if the opposite could be true. I think it changed my life. I've been doing it ever since. And it taught me to be looking for the obvious and not the clever. The obvious is really your true self. The clever is that an imitation of somebody else, really. But let's forget that. I'm sure I never said it. Be average. That's right. There's this terrible culture in which everyone's taught to do their best. I mean, people who are bad improvisers go on, they try to be good improvisers. If anybody knows how to get better by doing your best, please I'd recommend a book called Maximum Performance about athletes. The book is about interviews with athletes who broke world records. And it's almost always when they weren't trying. If they're really trying their best, they're using too many muscles. In fact, you learned at school to tense yourself up and say, I'll do better. Give me another chance. You just fill yourself with tension, and that causes fear. And in my opinion, doing your best is the same as stage fright. But everybody says that. So my recommendation is to be average, because then there's no stress.
Sorry, Keith, we do have to move along.
Those who say, I think that's self-explanatory.
Move on?
It does give, well, it may give people some insight into the fact, well, it's a question of what talent is. When I began to teach improvisation, I was astounded at all the things the improvisers did to wreck themselves, because they were so negative, and they can't. If they lit a fire, it would start to rain. An example here, from San Francisco, these people were supposed to be on a boat, they're going to go ashore. Someone says, let's light a fire on the boat. Why? Why? Because he's trying to think outside the box? Because only a total idiot will want to do that. You have to teach improvisers to think inside the box, or you can't work with them. I mean, I wouldn't really want Robin Williams in my theater company. He'd have to be the star, and you'd have to follow him at all times, because he was a comic genius, fantastic. But I wouldn't want him in my theater company, because he'd be outside the box most of the time. The audience think inside the box. If the phone rings, they think you're going to answer it. The phone can ring on an improvisation stage, and somebody will hide behind the sofa. Because they're wanting to be original.
Sorry, Keith.
Next.
We have many slides.
Next. We don't have to go through all the slides.
No, we don't. But it is my job.
No, your job is, if I start meandering into nowhere, is to, if you think I'm not explaining something,
Okay.
you have to give me shit, okay? I chose Dennis because he's one of the few people who's not afraid of me. But I'm having thoughts, I don't know. Okay. Striving after originality is trying to think outside the box, and everyone's taught to do that. If I put 15 of you up on the stage, which I'd love to do, I would say, listen, this is a simple game. Someone will shout out something you can all do, and then you'll go, yes, and do it. And we set that going, and first of all, nobody will shout anything out because they don't know what to shout out. In situations where you could shout out anything, people have problems because they want a context to do it in. But somebody will shout it out and they'll do it. The strange thing is, the brain connects things. Cat, bird, nest, tree, grass, house, sun, smoke, yeah. That's what the brain does. It doesn't go sausage, Mrs. Thatcher. That's much more difficult. People sweat and strain, and they feel they're giving themselves away because they can't censor it. Perhaps when I was a young man, perhaps I had a desire for Mrs. Thatcher. I mean...
It's in my head now, so...
I know. So they shout out things like, they shout crazy things. Let's jump up and down. Let's shake hands. Let's sit on the floor. Let's run in circles. they're sweating to find something not connected. And that's really bizarre. Now, the audience connects things, but the improvisers disconnect because they've been taught to be original. If you're stared at, if you're in the street and a lot of people come out of a bar and all stare at you, it might be possible to clown. But for almost everybody, your response is to be unchanged. You don't want to blush, you don't want to look nervous, you want to continue as before.
It's the 1 minute bell, as in 1 minute left.
You are kidding.
Why would I kid about something like that?
Right. Well, then we put people on the stage. And this is a special place, because this is where people have paid money. They got tickets, most of you, and they can stare at you whatever happens. So whatever embarrassment happens here, they can stare at you forever. It's awful. It's much worse than in the street. So then the defense systems come in order not to be altered when you're being looked at. Because either you interpret it as love, and that hardly works with the whole audience, or as aggression. Which brings us back to what?
I'm afraid,
What?
Keith,
No.
it brings us to the end.
No, not yet. They can cut the tape somewhere.
I think we're being told to leave.
I know. While we're leaving, they could still flash them on.
Well, they...
Dennis! Thank you.